food. So we have to be really careful in navigating in terms of the policy. When you talk about SMEs, you talk about job creations. Next slide, we'll talk about the terminations of employment. People call it furlough. Some say it's PHK. I was a victim of PHK in 97-98 crisis, whereby I lost my job. I was a professional and I lost my job. I remember how the pain, it is so difficult to lose a job because you don't have your monthly income. And we are now seeing a very mind-boggling number, very staggering number. More than 2 million people will soon be out of a job, and more coming, close to 5 million. In fact, in Indonesia and the US, it is already 15%. So the company performance will definitely drastically reduce. And unlike 97-98, this 2020 crisis, the SMEs is being hit the hardest in the first weeks of the crisis. Why? Because there is no mobility. Because the mobility is being restricted, SMEs lost the aggregate demand and the revenues that they normally have. From the food and beverage stalls, coffee, traders, as well as the informal sectors, people who sells warung tegal, nasi padang, all closed down. And these are against the backbone of the economy. 60% plus of our economy is the SMEs. Financial difficulties, some employers are reducing wage. Some have even lay off workers because they don't have liquidity. These are the numbers. ILO said 1.25 billion workers is at the risk of being laid off. In Indonesia, 74,000 companies already laying off. In Jakarta in particular, you see that 18,000 companies, more than 150,000 workers have been laid off. So the impact, and these are, if you go back to the original formula, these are primarily SMEs because they are hit the hardest and within the first 2 weeks of the crisis. So these numbers mainly come from the SMEs. The bigger companies could sustain a little longer, but the SMEs are really now very much in a very challenging situations, and they have no liquidity. Next slide. These are when your body needs immunity, it needs vitamins. Vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin B. When an entrepreneur, SME entrepreneurs having some problems with their ongoing business, some going concerns issue, they would need vitamin as well. So the vitamin for entrepreneur, I call it Vitapreneur. And the principle, there are 5 principles. First, the impact on the SMEs is the flight to cash, because all SMEs will preserve their cash. Cash is king. Right now, the liquidity, which is represented by cash, is very difficult to get. So what they're doing now is, first, we call it mantab, which is short for makan tabungan. They are basically withdrawing from their savings. So the new normal, many things. For instance, we have, I will show you SMEs now producing this. This is from batik. Very nice. This is batik. It's now SMEs that normally sells hijab, now sells this mask, face mask, and some also, this is very nice, black. See, you can take it away. And new normal is one areas whereby SMEs needs to do quickly. Another new normal is internet. Now a lot of work from home, study from home requires internet service. A new normal is some opportunities coming up in the technology sectors. Webcam is sold out, speakers, external monitors is sold out, and this is basically the new normal. If you don't have access to those products, some SMEs already turn to become resellers. Third is survive through ecosystems. A lot of SMEs, pretty much like the travel, tourism industries, they are hit the hardest, but they have database of customers. So now they're collaborating with some of their friends who offer the vitamins or ginger or food, and they offer to their database of customers. So people are now starting to collaborate. And this is what I call ecosystem. Fourth, now that you spend most of your time at home, a lot of SMEs now are upgrading their skills. They're taking training online. They're reading some of the new techniques and new opportunities. So they invest in themselves, invest in upgrading their skills. And fifth is like all SMEs, they're very hardworking group of sectors. They need to stay calm in the storm. During the storm, you don't risk going out. You stay inside, wait till the storm passes. Don't waste your energy fighting the storm. You're not going to be able to beat the storm, but stay inside, stay home, stay healthy, and then don't get panicked. Because next slide, I'm going to go very quickly. This is the right time for entrepreneurs to pivot. Some potential winners, these slides have actually went viral. This is people are now, the new normal is thinking about how they ensure that they would invest in medical supply and services. Post-COVID-19, people will take care of their health better. They will consume the right kind of food, the nutritious food, no goreng-gorengan, no oily stuff, more food which is healthy food will be in demand. Personal healthcare, people will wash their hand more. They would need soaps, hand sanitizers. They would need personal gloves. ICT, e-commerce, agricultural, food will be the focus. And now also the potential winners are the new and renewable energy, because people are now starting to realize that, hey, the environment is much nicer. I can see blue sky in Jakarta. I have not seen blue sky for the longest time in Jakarta. Now I could see it. So adapt to new normal, pivot, and create your way of sectors that is more productive going forward, and keep the supply chains going. Make sure that you focus on creating productive productions capability in Indonesia, not everything you import, but you create productions capability, food in particular, energy, water, and other supplies. Because if you control the supply chains, the next time a global exogenous shock like this happening, that you are more prepared. I think I have two more final slides very quickly. This is a case during outbreak that some very successful startups in fintech are now chasing down new pandemic funding. So these are fintech company. Stripe just raised $600 million. These are SMEs in the financial technology space. What is their valuations? $36 billion. Now, during this coronavirus, people say, oh, very difficult to find money. This is another SME showing that if you are in the right sectors, people are now converting to fintech. People don't want to hold cash anymore because it may have the coronavirus. So Stripe showed it. Australian Air Wallets raised $160 million in Series D funding, $1.8 billion valuations during this very difficult time. Visa, the credit card giant in the world, bought Plate for $5.3 billion, and the list goes on. So if you are SMEs in the right sectors, it's actually showing that there is still hope, there is opportunity. And if you choose to stay positive and be optimistic, you will be able to not only survive the crisis, but be more successful. Now, Pa Andri Anto also asked about the same. The education is a potential loser. If you don't pivot, you need to pivot to the industrial 4.0 era, whereby you invest. This is the time that you invest in work from home. So you may get a new camera or a webcam that we could see you now. Anyway, I want to go back to your questions. Anyway, I got distracted to Pa Arifanto earlier. Education needs to pivot to ICT. And when you do educations by way of technology, they call it edutech, then they'll become a winner. Now, how would the government help SMEs? The government in the past have been helping on three sectors of the SMEs. First is market, providing access to market. Secondly, access to modal or access to their capital. And third is access to improve human capital or SDM. So during these difficult times, we have to do something out of the box, because SMEs during this difficult time know that there is no market. Aggregate demand collapsed. They would only look at 1 to 3 months maximum to survive. So what they need to get from the government is cash. That's why Trump administrations, I'm not a fan of Trump, but they did the right thing, which is send checks to all Americans, $1,200 if you earn less than $70,000, which is like 98% of the people there. And secondly, provide close to $400 billion worth of SME funding, because that will allow SMEs to not lay off people. That will allow SMEs to weather the crisis, and that would allow SMEs to continue to operate. So when the government reopen the economy, the SMEs could be there and quickly ready to provide output to the economy. Because if they close, there are more money needed to reopen and restart their business. I'll give the benefit of the doubt. Now, 400 trillion is good, but we need to make sure that this money will reach the SMEs during Ramadan. Because if they don't get the money, then you will not have the effectiveness of the program, of order package. Secondly, check again in June, see the impact. If it's not enough, then you need to add more. Because if we are not able to contain the crisis, the health crisis by June or July, that means we will have another 3 to 6 months of recovery. So, and SMEs cannot wait 3 to 6 months. So liquidity is number one. And I think this is something that people at SGPP needs, because you guys are School of Government and Public Policy. You guys analyze public policy. You have to put the inputs. You guys have to really look at what sectors are really in priority. Now, me and Pak Gita now discussing more on the other two pillars of the economy, because the first two pillars are households and SMEs. These are going to be our priorities, but the next two pillars are also equally very important, which is the corporate sectors as well as the financial sectors. Now, you need to have separate package for these corporate sectors and financial sectors, and you need to be guided by data. And this is what we're going to be focusing in the months to come. Thank you for the question, Ibu Marcella.
Thank you, Bang. I hope that answered your question, Mbak Marcella. We have some questions from the Q&A section as well, Bang. So I'd like to read one from Aryan TGH. He said, hello from Bali. Hello, Bang Sandi. Happy Earth Day to everyone. The government is working on reviewing businesses that are eligible to receive government aid, as it receives reports from 37,000 SMEs severely hit by the COVID pandemic. How can SMEs strengthen their resilience during the COVID-19 pandemic and exercise responsible leadership after the crisis? And what can digitalization offer with respect to this?
Thank you. And hello, our friends in Bali. My thoughts and prayers with all the people in Bali, because Bali is suffering from the this restricting in mobility. Nobody is allowed to travel nowadays, and you guys are relying heavily on tourism. So, and 10% of the workforce of the whole country, in particular in Bali, rely on tourism. So we hope, again, we pray that this pandemic will be over soon. Your questions is how digitalizations is it definitely right here? This is exactly the example of how digitalizations can offer some kind of new normal, some kind of opportunities. Mbak Marcella supposed to be having the camera in front in front of her computer so we could all see her, but she has not been able. So digitalizations will allow some additional output and opportunities to help people in the work from home status. Digitalizations, we are now forced to adopt and transform digitalizations earlier than we thought we would be. Some people said, oh, okay, 2021, 2022, we will be starting to get a new computer or put my business. Now we're doing online sales, but we're not doing marketing or accounting online. We're not doing fulfillment online. We're not doing sourcing online and stuff like that. So this is going to be a fast forward to the future on digitalizations. Resilience. SME has been known to be very resilient, but SMEs, it's tough because they don't have the right tools at the moment. So I offer number 3, the Vitapreneur number 3 is survive through ecosystems. People have to help each other, and SMEs, I mentioned a good friend of mine, Pak Isnaini, his business is Hajj and Umrah travel, completely zilch. Not only he doesn't have revenue, people are now asking for refunds. Now, what does he do nowadays? He's pivoting. He said, I have this list of customers. I have this people who are ready to go to Umrah, to go to Hajj. I will use this database to help sell kurma, jinten, and madu. It's basically dates, habatus sauda, and honey during this month of Ramadan, because they're not traveling, but they need to boost their immunity. So he pivot from selling tours packages to selling all this basic food that is accustomed for people going into Ramadan. So this is what I call resilient. If you are going through an ecosystems, we have a saying called silaturahim. And when we do silaturahim, there are 2 miracles that we hope God will grant us, which is panjang umur, which is long life, and murah rezeki, which is additional opportunities, additional business, additional wealth being given to you. So this is, I would say, how we could strengthen our resilience. And leadership is key. All of us are leaders within even a smaller context. So leadership have to show examples, even SMEs. I tell my SME friends, some have to lay off people, some have to put their workers on furlough. I said that be open and transparent. Leaders have to be open and transparent. Say, this is the cash flow that the company have. Now we need to survive. And in order for that, we need to put you on furlough. My advice to them is prioritize on the people at the bottom of the pyramid. Give them the full benefit, if possible, bonus, and try to negotiate or renegotiate from the middle and upper managers for them to cut their compensations for the time being, because the people who are in needs are people who are in the bottom of the pyramids, and this is what the SMEs are facing now. So I hope I've been able to address your question, Aryan and Matur Suksma. Jeffrey, the last question, I believe that we need to reform our tax systems, and I think Ibu Sri Malyani has started to do some kind of reform. And the future will be tech and digital companies. People like Netflix during this pandemic, they had the best month ever in the history of the company, the short history of the company. 60 million new customers sign up to Netflix, and most also coming from Indonesia because we like the contents there. So fintech company also, there are reports saying that people who now converted their regular banking, traditional banking to fintech is increasing on a many fold. So if the reform is focusing on how we could work with fintech company in order to widen our tax base, because now the problem is our tax base is limited. It has not been able to grow. It has not been able to expand. So use the collaborations. Don't say to fintech company, we're going to tax you. I was an entrepreneur before. I was a businessman before. When the tax office said that they will tax you, they'll find ways to make life difficult for you. And I've experienced that. So let's start collaborating. Private, public. I have this great quote from David Rubenstein of Carlyle saying that in times of crisis, everybody gets together, bring the best of humanity to work together in terms of how we could overcome this together. So the tax office, in order to increase revenue post-COVID, definitely 2020 will be very difficult. But 2021, there's a sign of there's a light at the end of the tunnel that we may be able to be having a much better economy. So this is the time for them to reform, work together, widen the tax base, get the IT company to identify people who have not been paying tax in the past, get them to go into the system, because a lot of people are more in the informal sectors, bring them to formal sectors. And then with the lower tariffs, with the lower tax rates, you'll be able actually, with the expanded tax base, get a better revenue. So yeah, fintech is a potential opportunity to increase, and they're actually doing well, Pa Jeffrey. Secondly, SMEs. Liquidity is key, and I put it number one, cash is king. And I think just like many other crises before, whereby SMEs always become the savior, they always become the least acknowledged, but always every time they rise through the occasions and help Indonesia's economy. So naturally, my passions and my heart will go to the SMEs because time and time again, they never really asked for government bailouts. They never really, 2008, 2009, there were government bailouts. There's a Bank Senturi case. 97, 98, there are BLBI and corporate sectors bailout, 600 trillions of recovery, the bond that recap the banking system. Who benefit? It's mostly the big guys. So I'm part of that establishment in terms of, part of the large thing. This is something that, Ardantya is a big supporter of the current government. Maybe he could help convince some of these old-fashioned policies that have stayed there. I pushed to the Minister of Trade. I said that let's forget about the quota system, because the quota system breed corruptions and breed, entitlement to people who are close to the government. Why don't we move to the tariff system? And fortunately, he listens, and I think we also agree. We're now slowly moving, at least until May, to the tariff system, and hopefully this will be able to supply the food necessary for the month of Ramadan. So thank you, Ibu Dian, for your questions.
Thank you, Bang. So we have around 15 minutes left, and Pak Ardantya is here, and he raised his hand actually to ask you a question, maybe, Bang Sandi.
Okay.
Go ahead, Pak Ardantya.
All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity, and hello, my respected elder brother, Mas Sandiaga Uno. Yes, I actually expect to join the sessions is to digging out your perspective toward the SMEs, and I agree with you that the cash is number one. However, you're also talking about the digitizations, where that one of the key to adapt to the situation, where I would think that this COVID-19 is actually an acceleration of the adoption to the digitals. But however, now I'm talking on the perspective of educations and trainings. Everybody knows that actually the ability or the quality of the skills that that is possessed by the lower class, middle class is still in that level. Where now actually would like to know your perspective, Masandi, is how can we accelerate them in order to be able to adopt to the technology, in order to make them more competitive, in order to make them actually more productive, which actually I am actually facing now, and I'm now staying in Malang, Masandi, and I'm seeing a lot of SME and retail, small retails actually is dying to have transactions, and they're just not really easy to absorb new information. So I would like to know your perspective on that, Mas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mas Dantia. I think this is something that we all need to focus. Transformations into the digital economy is the new economy. Some of the SMEs, don't underestimate them. If you give them access to training, access to empowerment, they would be able to adopt. A lot of people would remember 3, 4, 5 years ago when Pak Nadiem Makarim introduced Gojek. A lot of people would probably raise their eyebrow in saying that how do we train all these ojek drivers to be able to adopt digital applications? And after 2 to 3 years, we are showing again that SMEs are quick adapter to technology. So in order for us to accelerate the adoptions of technology and digitalizations, Mas Dantia, the government must take hand in hand a concept of public-private partnership. you cannot do it by yourself. In Jakarta, we started this movement, and now it has become the movement has transformed into a government program, whereby we train close to 130,000 SMEs. And there are 7 steps of this OKOJ program. First is registrations. Secondly is training. Third is mentoring. Fourth is marketing. Fifth is legal and permit licensing. Sixth, and this is very important, is financial training, cash flow training. And seventh is access to capital. Once you let them through this training program, 60% of them adopt digitalizations. I was talking to Ibu Kamera, owner of Dapur Kamera. Before joining the program, she only used WhatsApp to chat, to talk to her daughters and to her friends. But now through the program, she has an online store. And through her Instagram, she would be able to sell her product, which is the culinary products online. So this type of, especially you are in Malang, I spent a lot of time in the last few years visiting Malang. Malang is going to also face some difficulties because some tourism as well as travel is restricted. But Malang, again, is blessed by very fertile soil, good farmers. They have products such as tomato, apple. I see good products from Malang, but during the harvest, the price drops. And during the, when the price drops, not only they're not able to sell the products and get good prices, but also they're not able to even harvest the tomato because the price dropped. So again, you need a public-private partnership. The government, local government, central government, and the private sectors there, because people still eat tomatoes. Last week I spoke with some entrepreneurs from HIPMI in Nganjuk. All their bawang merah, the red shallots, completely sold out. And every time they're about to harvest, people are buying it. Because right now, the COVID-19 caused people to, hopefully not panic buying, but they want to get access to supplies of basic food, basic necessities like garlic, like, their vegetables. So Malang is key, and I think if you are spending your time there, you'll be great help to the SMEs there, because you have good access to people people making decisions upstairs, and also you have some entrepreneurial background from your HIPMI connection. So thank you, Mas Dantya, for the support.
Thank you, Mas Andy.